With the effects of sugar now clearly taking a toll on me, and having witnessed its devastation in Armata, I needed to talk to some people that knew a lot more about the subject than I did.
Oh, it's behind you, hanging off my cupboard door.
It was time to head to the cultural capital of convenience, the mecca of the processed food and sugar industry, and the current #1 ranked world obesity champion.
Look out, America! Here comes Sugar Daddy! So much larger than life. I'm gonna watch it growing.
So, we're here in America, day 1, jet lag. So I just went into Jumbo Juice and got me one of these. 139 grams of sugar. I actually need a calculator for this. That is 34 teaspoons of sugar in that drink. That is nearly my daily allowance in this cup. What a great jet lag cure. Wow, 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 wow.
Now, if I was to eat the same amount of sugar that was in that smoothie, but the sugar was in its original fruit packaging, I would have to eat 4 peaches, 9 limes, 30 lemons, and 30 strawberries. This might be fine for a bear about to go into hibernation, but it can have damaging effects for a human who thinks they are making a healthy choice.
One of the interesting conflicts today is this idea that, pushed by some of our government, well-meaning government officials, that if you could just get Coca-Colas out of McDonald's and get the kids to drink fruit smoothies, they'd be healthier, and yet the fruit smoothies have just as much sugar as the Coca-Cola.
The first thing I noticed with American foods was how difficult it was going to be to stay under 40 teaspoons. It wasn't just the abundance of sugar in the food, but also the presence of a sweetener called high fructose corn syrup. Its primary delivery system is soft drink, which adds roughly 4,000 teaspoons a year to the diet of each American.
People don't actually realize that high fructose corn syrup and sugar are virtually identical. The corn refiners back in the 1980s did their best to make sure that people didn't equate high fructose corn syrup with sugar. Flash forward 20 years later, people are blaming high fructose corn syrup for the obesity epidemic. And now the corn refiners are desperately trying to say that they are sugar. They're no different than, and the sugar industry is going, no, you're not. They're entirely different.
Turbinado, fruit juice concentrate.
With sugar and high fructose corn syrup now in the spotlight, I noticed that companies are using a range of seductive names for other fructose-based sweeteners.
Agave.
Any sugar, brown sugar, white sugar, high fructose corn syrup, fruit juice concentrate from fruit juice, equal effect on your health.
Not feeling very well at all today. Nauseous in my stomach and had a headache all morning. And it's interesting because we're driving through rural America now. We're in North Carolina.
Oh, my kingdom's sinking, and I don't know what to do.
It's so hard to get any kind of decent food. There are signs that say food exit, but that food is either McDonald's or Taco Bell or KFC. It's impossible. And if you grew up as a kid and this is your only experience of food and what food is, it's little wonder that there's a massive problem in this country.
It takes two to calm down you. It takes one to be saved.
The next stop was Barbourville, Kentucky. In the Great Cola Wars of the 1990s, Pepsi and Coke were engaged in a fierce battle. The Pepsi Army took a strong foothold in the state of Kentucky. And their number one sniper is the drink Mountain Dew. In this 1.25 litre bottle, you'll find 37 teaspoons of sugar and 40% more caffeine than the same size bottle of Coke. The people of Kentucky have understandably had some problems with their teeth. And one dentist is doing something about it. His name is Edwin Smith. This is his letterbox, this is his daughter, and this is him as a collectible figurine. Edwin drives around the state of Kentucky in RVs he has converted into mobile dental clinics. He and his team visit schools, educate the kids, and treat their teeth.
Early in my practice, I saw these patients that would have this unusual decay, brown decay around the gum line, usually the front teeth. Most of these people were addicted to Mountain Dew in particular, and that's where we came up with the term Mountain Dew mouth. I've talked to some kids that say they may drink 10 a day. They started drinking it so early that they don't know when they started.
Mountain Dew will tickle your innards because there's a bang in every bottle.
They take the lid off, they take a drink. 20 minutes or so, it starts to wear off, and they take another drink. It takes the oral cavity about 20 minutes to cleanse itself naturally with saliva. So if you're taking a drink every 20 minutes, it's as though you're bathing your teeth in this all day long.
What's the youngest kids that you treat?
Sometimes 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds that have a lot of tooth decay, and those are usually what we call baby bottle tooth decay, and that's from having juices in the baby bottles, and sometimes it's from having soft drinks in the baby bottles too.
Do you do the majority of your treatments in Kentucky?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
It's eastern Kentucky, the Appalachian region, the mountains. That's the poorest region in the state. It's directly related to poverty.
Yeah.
It's pretty common for people around here to drink a lot of pop. Mainly it's Mountain Dew and Pepsi.
This is 17-year-old Larry. He's lived in Kentucky all his life. This is his tat, this is his favourite t-shirt, and these are his teeth.
My 18th birthday is in 8 days, and I mean, people look down upon me because of my teeth. As I was a kid, I was never worried about my teeth, and I would just take a pop everywhere I went, and I always had one in my hand.
And how old do you reckon you were when you had your first Mountain Dew? Like how old?
I would probably say 2 or 3.
And how much a day would you say you have?
I would say at least 4 or 5 bottles. If it was cans, I would say at least a 12-pack.
12 cans a day. Are there people doing that in this town?
Yeah.
What about you were talking about your cousin before?
I would say about 6 or 7 cans a day, and he's only 3 years old.
And how does he drink it from the can?
No, from the bottle. She puts it in his bottle.
Edwin is meeting Larry today because he plans to remove all of his teeth and replace them with dentures.
He has 26 teeth that need to be extracted altogether. I'd like to say that that's really rare, but it's not. You doing okay, Larry?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Nervous.
Okay. You got any questions about today?
Yeah.
What?
When can we get this started?
Can we get his mom in here? Okay.
I don't want no pain for him. I wish I could take it for him.
not feeling the anesthetic yet?
Hell no.
You're a brave man.
My blood pressure said, oof.
Yeah.
Well, right now Larry doesn't feel numb, and I think we have a couple factors playing a role in that. One is that he's very nervous and the adrenaline's flowing. And the other is that he has infection in there and has had infection for some time, so the anesthetic does not take effect as well. The condition his teeth are in now, you know, he suffered a lot before he's even been here, so he knows what pain is.
Due to infection, no amount of anaesthetic would work on Larry's gums. So Edwin has decided to postpone the procedure for another day. When contacted, Pepsi said that in moderation, Mountain Dew is part of a healthy, balanced diet. But I would argue that any drink with that much sugar and caffeine in it is quite difficult to have in moderation. In fact, despite sitting through Larry's ordeal, the biggest shock came when Larry told me that he still loved Mountain Dew and would continue to drink it.
Hi, honey. Oh, it was an amazing day. When you think of Armator and now this, you're seeing the direct effects of what sugar's doing. And the companies, they just don't see it because they're worried about making money. They're not on the ground level seeing the effects, and they don't care, really. And I spoke to the dentist about like what Pepsi have done about it and stuff, and he said, oh, look, you know, they contacted me and said, look, we really want to help you out, and, you know, so they bought an RV, another car to help with the kids, but he's like, look, yeah, that's good, but they don't really need an RV, they need education. But as he said today... They need to
not drink Mountain Dew every day.
But as he said, they're not going to educate the kids because that means they'll stop drinking it, and that's a disaster for them.
My experience with Larry led me to a Pulitzer Prize-winning author who has written extensively on how the food giants have got us hooked on their products.
You can't underestimate the amount of scientific effort that these companies will put into maximizing the allure of their products, understanding the sort of fundamentals of how we taste and why we crave and what makes food addictive. And I was lucky enough to spend some time with a legend in the processed food industry. His name is Howard Moskowitz. And he walked me through his recent creation of a new soda flavor for Dr. Pepper. He started with 61 levels of sweetness in the formulation, subjected that to more than 3,000 consumer taste tests around the country, then took that data and out came the optimum level of sweetness that was guaranteed to send their new soda flying off the shelf.
Behind the closed doors of industry, this optimal amount of sugar is referred to as the bliss point. Back in the 1970s, Howard Moskowitz discovered that as you increase the amount of sugar in a product, people liked it more and more. But then they peaked, and if any more sugar was added, then they stopped liking it.
So I discovered the bliss point, and that's what it was christened, the bliss point. Well, fast forward 45 years later, it means pasta sauce, it means sodas, it means cereals.
Creating bliss points in products all over the place is exploiting the biology of the child. You know, it's created this expectation in kids that everything they eat should taste sweet. So when you get to the vegetable aisle, right, and you're trying to get little Mikey to eat that broccoli, and he starts tasting those bitter notes, right, instead of sweetness, you know, you're in for a load of trouble as a parent.
It's understandable that our palates have adjusted to all of these blissed out foods when we have such a primal desire for sweet. Even Mother Nature herself has created a berry that makes everything taste sweet.
So in front of me, I have 3 food items that it's fair to say I don't enjoy. This here, piping hot chili. This here, sour lemon. And this nasty bottle of apple cider vinegar. But apparently, if I put this miracle berry onto my tongue and then eat those things, it's supposed to make them taste sweet. No way! That's an orange. I'm dubious. When I hit my throat, it was really intense. But in the mouth, I don't know what it tasted like. Maybe lemonade kind of thing. It wasn't too sweet, but it was not apple cider vinegar. But this has got me nervous. I do not like chili at all. Please work. Nothing. It's in my throat though. There's no miracle berry on my esophagus. Damn.
This experiment with my taste buds made me realise what the food companies have always known, that adding sweetness can make anything palatable.
I'm so sorry.
Well, almost anything. It was now day 35, and the rule of the experiment I was finding increasingly hard to maintain was exercise. My motivation had plummeted.
Hello, Sharon.
How are you feeling?
Oh, well, if you could see me, you would not recognise me because there's a few pimples that have arrived. There's a lot of fat and fullness in my face, and my tummy is really quite something to behold. I can't fit into my favourite new shorts anymore, which is a bit disappointing.
When did the pimples break out?
About 3 days ago.
It's probably your liver reacting. Often skin conditions are related to poor liver functioning.
So if someone's on a sort of like high processed sugar diet, you'll see it in their eyes, you'll see bags under the eyes, you'll see it in their skin, whether they're here or they're just really drawn and lethargic.
Sugar's effects on me physically were obvious, but my cravings for it and the mental toll it was taking prompted me to explore what it was doing to my brain. So I took my pimply face to the Oregon Research Institute. This group of scientists, who I'm trusting enormously, own this colossal magnetic sucking machine called an fMRI, which they are going to put me and my brain into. They will then show me images of this high-sugar, low-fat milkshake, and then feed me the milkshake through a special mega straw. Then they'll take some photos of my brain and show me how it reacted.
Now I'm going to climb into my own brain and see what effect sugar just had on it. Now, the first step is that we see what's called a cue, or a trigger, which in my case was the milkshake. It can be a picture of one or the real thing. Now, when we see this sugary cue or trigger, a chemical called dopamine is released in our brain. This is an evolutionary urge when sweetness was rare. So when we saw it, our brain said, get that, because you need it for quick energy and to feel good. Now, the next step is that we get the sugary item.
We bring it to our mouth and we taste its sweetness. It's then that chemicals called opioids, beta endorphins are released, and we feel terrific. Sugar lights up the same reward areas as nicotine, cocaine, and sex. But it doesn't last long. Now, if some of us eat sugary foods often enough and establish this happy feeling of reward, it can create subconscious or mindless habits, which are easily triggered by more images of sugary foods. Throw into the mix that the fructose half of sugar also affects our appetite control centres, plus the glucose half affects our moods. And suddenly, we have a very volatile combination on our hands.
One of the very interesting emerging findings in this literature is the more you eat high sugar foods, the more you're going to desire high sugar foods and want to continue eating them.
Give me that old-fashioned morphine.
This desire to want to keep eating more sugary foods sounds a lot like addictive behaviour.
Give me that old-fashioned morphine.
Serge Ahmed, who's now in Bordeaux in France, published a really cool study where he basically showed that rats will work harder for sugar than they will for cocaine.
Unlike the drug dealer who is, is squired away someplace hiding, the food giants are in your face everywhere you go.
In the boardrooms of these food giants, addiction is a dirty word. When it comes to obesity and illness, the food industry have always argued that people need to take personal responsibility for their food choices.
When it comes to eating, fat people are basically very stupid.
But you see, I was away this weekend, and it is difficult in friends' houses.
Okay, Mrs. Wright,
I can't
no
say
more chocolates.
For more than 50 years, the food industry has insisted that obesity is caused by too many calories and not enough exercise, which implies that anyone overweight is simply lazy or greedy. Okay, so we just passed halfway, and I've never counted calories in my life. I'm trying my best in this experiment. It's hard to be accurate, obviously, but it looks like my calories so far are pretty much exactly the same as they were pre-experiment. And that feels strange because I feel like I'm eating a lot more, but I can see here that when I was eating pre-experiment avocado and nuts and stuff, there's a lot more calories in fat than there is in sugar. So, in fact, it's half, like 9 calories per gram of fat, whereas sugar's only got 4 calories. So I can see why we're told that sugar's okay and don't eat fat, because there's less calories. But I'm eating the same amount of calories as I did before, but my liver's turned to fat, my belly's chasing my ladies, it's doing something in my brain, we know that now, and I'm not feeling full. So it feels like the calories from sugar behave very differently to other calories.
Sugar industry absolutely depended on this idea that it's just about energy balance. Because if there's something uniquely deleterious about sugar, then they're in the realm that cigarettes are in, tobacco and lung cancer. But if it's just about eating too much or not exercising too little, if a calorie of sugar is no different than a calorie of broccoli, they're fine. Just tell people to moderate their weight. If you're getting fat, eat less, and that's all there is. So the sugar industry also sort of pushed this idea that a calorie is a calorie is a calorie, and yet these calories do dramatically different things in the human body, and they always have.
It's become clear to me that in the search for profits, the food companies are not only targeting our primal desire for sugar, but are also insisting that all calories are equal. The result is that we feel like failures if we're addicted or overweight. Perhaps the greed that is actually making us overweight and sick is of the corporate variety.
Hello, you.
Hello, honey. Can you show me the belly?
Look, this baby. He's actually doing little kicks.
Quick. Oh. Hello, baby. Hello, baby.
Hello, daddies.
Bye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
many sugarholics there are in this country? Millions and millions of them. As you go around the schoolyards, you watch the young boys and girls of this country and see how many of these children, they're soft, weak muscles, they're out of condition, they don't have the energy and vitality they should have. They look like sugar. They don't...
After 45 days, it became more and more evident that we're just not getting a clear message about sugar. Could the fact that sugar's global trade is worth $50 billion have anything to do with it? It turns out that the suppression of the message began in the 1970s, when the US government was reviewing the safety of sugar for the first time. The Sugar Association launched a campaign to ensure their product wasn't vilified.
In this case, what the sugar industry did is they stepped in when the evidence was ambiguous, and they said, we're going to kind of make sure it's always ambiguous.
To do this, the Sugar Association paid scientists, hired a PR company, and released a report with a press release that read, "Scientists dispel sugar fears."
They put out this document called Sugar in the Diet of Man. There's no sign that it was paid for by the sugar industry. It looks like a very official document. It's published in a journal. They say the sugar industry sends out 25,000 copies.
This report was then used by the government to determine its findings. Sugar was exonerated, and the rest of the world followed suit.
Jack Tatum, president of the Sugar Association, is presenting to his board, and he says, look, there is no conclusive evidence linking sugar to these chronic diseases, and this is the lifeblood of our organization. It's the lifeblood of our product. If anyone ever links sugar to these diseases, we're dead. So our job, what we have to do, is make sure that there's no consensus.
This manipulation of evidence and deliberate muddying of the waters is all sounding very familiar.
Okay, how's about taking a nap? Hey, I got a better idea. Let's take a Winston break. That's it, Winston.
And evidently, it's still going on today.
If you create a list of the things that the tobacco industry did to stall or to fight off public health actions that would curtail smoking, the food companies are doing every single one. Paying scientists to do studies that favor industry positions, paying money to professional organizations like heart-related and cancer-related organizations, putting out deceptive statements in the press, characterizing science that doesn't work out for industry as junk science. You know, there's a very long list of these things. The tobacco industry did them all, and the food industry is doing them all.
Many of the reviews, that the final review is that there is no evidence that sugar is associated with metabolic disease of any kind, are funded by the sugar industry.
Given everything I've learnt so far, it was hard to believe there are still scientists defending sugar and fructose. I was curious to meet one of them. I haven't eaten sugar for nearly 3 years.
Yeah.
And part of this film is that I'm, for 60 days, eating a very high fructose sugar diet.
Yeah.
I thought maybe I'll put on a little bit of weight. I put on 6 kilos in Australia, which is 15 pounds.
Right.
All hidden sugars, granola bars, low-fat yogurt. What's happening?
Well, what I'd say is that that's a very powerful anecdote, and I think, you know, I think that's true, can be true for a lot of people. But I would say that you have to be careful anytime you do a high amount of anything. I think if I was to put you, again, on a white bread diet, you know, or to put you on a crisp, you know, potato chip diet or French fry diet, you might have a similar effect. I think the issue is that all of these calories really need to be regarded as discretionary.
I found John's position on calories so similar to the line that the food industry takes that I felt compelled to question the source of his research funding. Have you ever received any kind of funding from Coca-Cola?
You know, I think this is a really important question, and it's very important for me that I be transparent. So we've received investigator-initiated, unrestricted funding from Coca-Cola. What that means is they had no say over our questions we were asking, how we conducted the research, our analysis, our interpretation, and our data plan.
It's a red flag for me to hear you even say that. Is like, whoa, yeah. Okay, because this is a company with 650 beverage products that rely on fructose and sugar.
Yeah. So what I would say is you're right. I mean, We realized this going in. I mean, some may view this as sort of shaking hands with the devil, I guess. I mean, even though that's the case, you know, we're confident enough in what we're doing in our protocols, and we're laying everything bare that we could, you know, afford to engage with them.
I think we should not take money from the industry directly. I think it's just morally wrong to do that. And you know, money is tough, so it's a big dilemma for researchers as well. But we don't want to taint the answer. We want to know the truth.
Just 1 week later, I saw an ad for a symposium on fructose and sweetened beverages. It was sponsored by Coca-Cola. Their keynote speaker was Dr. John Sievenpiper. He spoke about calories and there being no link between fructose and cardiometabolic diseases in the studies. Coke madly tweeted about it, and then the host asked the audience
to maybe put together a YouTube video to, you know, bring some balance back to those messages that are out there for the public.
I found this video on YouTube, but I'm not sure it's quite what they had in mind.
Берем обыкновенную Кока-Колу. Напиток многофункциональный. Помогает во всем.
As the US leg of my experiment neared its conclusion, what really struck me is that despite all the effects sugar is having on us, in many ways, we've just adapted to its saturation.
And I'm just noticing how incredible the human body and the human mind is, because even though I'm having 40 teaspoons of sugar a day, I've adjusted now to this new reality. My body just accepts that this is what I eat, and my brain deals with the moods up and down. I just get on with life and it's fine, I can function. But I'm not nearly as efficient as I was. My fuse is a lot shorter. I'm exhausted. And I think that's how a lot of people live their lives. People are up and down all day, but it's just their reality, so they accept it, and they've never experienced anything different. And I have, and I'm really excited to get back to that point.
If you've always lived this way, you have no idea what life can be like. It's not part of your frame of reference.
Just the sound of your voice turning out.
Now, a lot of people will say, well, I eat sugar all the time and, you know, I'm perfectly fine. Well, what they don't understand is that they eat sugar all the time and they're fuzzy and their mind is cloudy all the time.
Goes a long way.
Sugar has now become so deeply ingrained into the fabric of our society that some people can't imagine life without it.
Let's say we took away added sugar. Well, then what are people going to do to get that same feeling in their life that sugar gave them in terms of their values and preferences?
But we forget that we didn't always live like this.
Society has changed. 200 years ago, there was not a society in the world when they had a festival that was basing what they ate and what they drank on sugar.
Today, it has become synonymous with any celebration. But more profoundly, it is one of the simplest ways we communicate love.
I think the reason that sugar has become so ingrained is that it actually evokes love. Our brains respond to the chemical effect the same way we respond to love.
If we're feeling upset, what do? We have some sugar. Oh, I feel better. There's not enough sweetness in our life, not enough love. Oh, I'll just have some chocolate.
With sugar having such complex associations with our hearts, minds and bodies, I wonder if it is having far greater ramifications for the culture than we've considered.
Rudolf Steiner said that sugar essentially causes materialism, and that development of the sugar metabolism and the sugar drug culture developed a materialistic culture.
We live in a time of instant gratification. Nobody wants to wait for anything. What's sugar? Quick energy, straight to the brain.
Hi, darling. Oh my God. Oh, look at this. Hello, dude. How you going in there, dude? Massive. How big's mine, too? Look at that. All right, let's do it.
After 60 days and 2,360 teaspoons of sugar, it was time for the last meal. I thought it would be fitting to cram all the remaining 40 teaspoons into items that could be found in a child's school lunchbox. One week later, after having all my blood tests done, I assembled the team to hear the final verdict on what sugar had done to my body. The obvious place to start is the liver. A key marker for determining liver health is a hormone called ALT. In the first month alone, mine jumped from 20 below the safety line to 20 above the safety line.
So it took you from, say, the best 20% of the men to the worst 10%.
In 1 month.
In 1 month.
Fatty liver is the first step towards insulin resistance. So once you're on an insulin resistance pathway, then you're on the pathway towards type 2 diabetes and then ultimately insulin-dependent type 2 diabetes. Today in Australia, 9 people had a limb amputated to that disease.
My triglyceride levels, which is the fat in the blood, went from a healthy 0.08 to 1.5.
So you'd hit the risk point.
Gee whiz. In 2 months of healthy eating.
Healthy eating.
High triglycerides can also indicate a switch from healthy cholesterol to the damaging small dense LDL cholesterol.
Small dense LDL lines you up for heart disease because they're the ones that are embedding in the arterial walls, forming plaques, and that's the bit you don't want.
Yeah.
Have all the LDL you like, but don't have those.
Yeah.
In terms of weight, I gained 8.5 kilograms overall and added 7% to my total body fat. But more ominously, increased my waist measurement by 10 centimetres. This is the dangerous visceral fat. I showed a slight change in the bum expansion test, a variance in the rear flesh wings test, and had great success in the highly scientific belly slap make a fat wave wobble test.
I was quite, as you know, quite alarmed that you were able to do that in such a short amount of time. Again, eating hard-approved healthy foods that everyone's going along thinking, is totally fine to be doing.
And we're worried about the future of this obesity epidemic in Australia, whether it's going to lead to an epidemic of liver disease in the long term.
But perhaps the most enlightening of my results was the calorie count. As I discovered, my calorie intake was virtually the same as my pre-experiment diet. The big difference was the source of the calories. I'd pretty much done a direct swap of healthy fats for sugar-laden products.
I was looking at the total calories as well, and very often it would come out as less than what he had eaten previously. The way that calories have been measured in the past needs to be re-looked at.
This calorie counting and this intense fixation with it, and it's our fault as much as, I take responsibility because that's a message we've been spewing out for the last 30 or 40 years, but we really have to try and turn things around. And Damon is living evidence, living proof. It is not the calories, it's the source of the calories, it's where they're coming from.
I'm surprised how quickly things went downhill for you. I honestly am. To put on so much weight in just 60 days without really changing the number of calories you were eating, without eating rubbish, to have such a big effect. 10 centimetres on the waist, 8.5 kilos on the body, full-blown fatty liver disease developed, well on your way to cirrhosis, well on your way to insulin resistance. That's a disaster.
I obviously, through my research, have convinced myself that sugar is almost assuredly the problem, like the fundamental problem. You get rid of sugar and everything else becomes relatively harmless.
We would like to do the definitive study, but even if we find out next month it gets funded, it's still going to be 5 more years before I will have results. What possible risk to public health is there in people lowering their sugar consumption?
This is our problem, and we should all work together to solve it instead of pointing fingers and not being productive about that. And I would love to see the food industry come to the table with scientists and healthcare providers and do what's right.
The first week of giving up sugar wasn't a lot of fun. Frankly, it didn't feel that different from giving up cigarettes. I had headaches, I was moody, and my sleep patterns were terrible.
And I just tossed and turned all night and then woke up very early, and as soon as I was awake, I'm craving sugar. I feel like I need a hit. It's the first real sign of that this is going to be a bit tricky.
But I knew from previous experience that I wouldn't feel like this forever, and that ultimately it would all be worth it.
Because food and sugar has a very strong emotional component, then we have to heal ourselves emotionally. We have to go through what could be a disturbing experience or an uncomfortable or even awkward experience coming off of it.
But once you get through it, which is about 2 to 4 weeks, suddenly the desire for sugar disappears altogether.
1 month after finishing the experiment, a miracle occurred. Our daughter was born. This is her mobile, this is her teething giraffe, and this is her lunch.
Oh, yeah.
But then some other remarkable things happened. After just 2 months of cutting out sugar, my vitality had returned, my skin was brighter, and thankfully, my moods had evened out.
I've had hundreds and hundreds of people go off sugar just for the reason of clearing up their mind. And typically the result I get is, wow, I had no idea.
In terms of my weight, all I did is return to my pre-experiment diet. I swapped cereal and low-fat yogurt for bacon, eggs and avocado without toast. I snacked on nuts and cheese instead of muesli bars, and ate fish or meat with the fat left on and lots of green vegetables for dinners. I lost 6 kilograms with minimal exercise.
Once you remove that hormone disruptor, fructose, from your diet, your appetite control works again and your weight drops.
Because I replaced sugar with healthy fats, I felt full again and didn't have to eat as much. Consequently, I spent the same amount on shopping as I had during the experiment.
Whenever you walk into a supermarket, make an immediate right turn or left turn for the produce aisle and avoid everything in the middle. Everything in the middle is a huge amount of calories with very little nutrients. And what we want to do is reverse that.
But the biggest surprise was that all of my blood tests had returned to normal. So no more heart disease risks and no more fatty liver.
I think the most important message is that this is not you get a fatty liver and that's it. It will stay fatty. It actually can be reversed very easily by taking away the fructose from your diet, taking away all those drinks. I mean, water is a good drink.
Yeah.
In truth,
Mummy's pie.
it did take a while for my palate to readjust to my lady's unsweetened cooking. Things tasted bland for the first few weeks, but then I rediscovered the full flavours of fresh produce.
For just 5 days, I want you to discontinue or take out of your diet for 5 days these foods that I'm going to show you, and I promise you that you will feel 100% better. Will you please try this for me, just as an experiment, because I'm here trying to help you. You help yourself a little bit. White sugar, candy, cake, ice cream.
In the USA, it was recently recommended for men to have no more than 9 teaspoons of sugar a day, and women no more than 6. Australia currently doesn't have an equivalent recommendation.
I love chocolate. I eat a little piece of chocolate every day, but I'm careful, and I understand the adverse effects if I have too much of it.
But for me, it's simpler to cut out sugar altogether. And that means avoiding artificial sweeteners too, that keep the cravings alive.
If you continue to reinforce it has to be sweet in order for it to be good, then you're never really learning how to do food, good food.
I want my daughter to grow up healthy and happy, and not waste any of her precious time counting calories or obsessing over weight. By educating our children, perhaps they can avoid the mistakes that our generation has made.
Do whatever you can to turn fruit and vegetable into the highlight of your meal. Train your kids to love them.
That's what every parent's got to figure out. How do you get in all those great nutrients? How do you get those superfoods into your child and make it taste good at the same time without spiking their blood sugar? So that they can sit down and study and learn and allow for the creation of genius. That's why we're having this sugar experiment. We had to learn that this is not the right way to go in order to help inspire us to get to the next level.
I certainly don't think that sugar is solely to blame for all our current health problems. But given its prevalence in our food supply, lowering our consumption is a great place to start.
Sugar's not evil, but life is so much better when you get rid of it.
This experiment has proven to me that refined sugar and excess fructose are causing serious damage to the health and well-being of millions of people. And as the debate heats up and the food industry fight tooth and nail to shut the message down, we'll be bombarded with conflicting nutritional advice. But for me, quite simply, the proof is in the pudding. About 10 teaspoons of it.
Teaspoons of fame hiding in a glass of juice.
See, some people think that Mr. Sugar hangs out only with the bright coloured snacks. But I've been spreading my crystals all over your food, and the company's been hiding the facts. I'm in cola, granola, and pasta sauce, mushy peas, mac and cheese, and that radish from a horse, and fruit and soup, even soup in a satchel. And Mr. Sugar loves the term all natural. White bread, corn chips, muffin, mixed gravy, mayonnaise, saute food for the baby, baked beans for the teens, and an energy drink. And I'm clearly gonna be in any food that's pink. I'm confessing I'm dressing and a hamburger bun with a cheeky corn syrup trying to steal all my fun. Muesli bars, even some cigars.
so sick.